Strictly Sickly is a medical-related talk show. While informed, we are not medical doctors. Any advice given on this show should not be substituted for a professional medical opinion. Always consult your physician before making any changes to treatments or routines.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 21 of Strictly Sickly. And I just happen to be sitting in this seat because the person we are interviewing today is
the hostess with the mostest.
The host of the show. Let me get the right camera on.
Sarah Hatfield.
Back there in the back. Hi. So you actually have the disease that we are covering
I have
today.
the disease we are covering today.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
What a coincidence.
I know, weird, right?
It's like we planned it that
It's
way.
almost like we planned it.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
All right, that's our show, guys.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for
See you
watching.
next time. Okay, so first of all, tell us what this magical, mystical disease is that you have and how you got it.
So, yeah, the first thing I was going to do is I was going to explain what complex regional pain syndrome is, which is not exactly an easy explanation because it's not the most understood disease on the planet. Like, they first figured it out in the Civil War when people were getting all the super awful injuries from, like, cannons and crap. And they were noticing that people would get these injuries, and over time, instead of healing, they would just hurt more and more and more, and they'd have swelling, and they'd lose the loss of the limb. And they finally figured out this was just a disease process entirely of its own. And it's really similar to phantom limb disease. But basically what CRPS is, the kind I have, it's from a known injury. So I had a severe nerve injury. And my brain, instead of going, okay, that's healed, that's better, my brain went, this is still happening, this is still going on right now forever. And it's still processing it like that. So it's basically like the injury has happened right then all the time. And it spreads. So it usually, wherever the infected limb is, it'll start there and it'll kind of spread out. And they've noticed some similarities in the spread, like it'll either rotate, like it'll go from one arm to the other, or it'll stick to one side of the body. It spreads in different ways, but it always has a sort of pattern to it. Now, how I got it was my son was about to, and I'd already had a couple of chronic illnesses, which predisposes you for getting this disease. But I was playing with my son on the floor. He ran into my bookshelf, causing a hand weight, about a 10-pound, like one of the little arm things, to fall on my hand. And I didn't go to the hospital that day because, honestly, it didn't look that bad. Like, at first, it was kind of bruised. And then it started to swell. And I went to the hospital. They sent me home. I went to the hospital. They sent me by ambulance to downtown Harris. And at downtown Harris, they told me that you can't get compartment syndrome in your hand. So compartment syndrome is really common, like if you break your leg. It swells so much, so fast, and nothing can get out of that compartment that it kills the nerves. So this can be a, what do you call it when it happens? This can be a chronic problem for people that like run and stuff. They can get chronic compartment syndrome. But what you do for this is you do a fasciotomy. So they take a scalpel and they cut down through all the layers to the muscle. And they generally leave it open. So I was lucky, and they eventually did a fasciotomy on me after, I believe it was 3 weeks in 2012. I kept going back. My hand had gone completely numb. It was black and blue. I've got pictures on my Facebook I can link after this. I had gone in, they'd sent me home again, and they said, you can't get compartment syndrome in your hand. The next day I went to go see a surgeon, and I didn't even get to her office. She saw me in the waiting room, and she said, I need you to go to the hospital right now. You have to have this surgery right now. She said, I doubt we can save your hand at this point. But if we don't do something now, it can cause a severe infection. It can kill you. So I went in, and I came out, and my hand looked great. They'd been able to sew it up. I got 5 incisions. And they had sewed it up, and the swelling was already like a ton better. I left the hospital that day and immediately went into physical therapy, and things started to kind of improve. They didn't think I'd get a whole lot of function back, but I started getting my function back rapidly. And the pain had gotten a lot better. And then I started waking up in the morning and noticing it just hurt. It hurt really bad, and it was swelling. So eventually, after multiple doctor's appointments, they sent me to a pain doctor who immediately diagnosed it as CRPS. And they started trying to treat it, which, works sometimes, doesn't work others. But, so what year is it now? 2019? Mm-hmm. So I've had it for 7 years.
7 years. And has it stayed in your hand?
No. In fact, my pain doctor, who I really liked, initially told me that if it's gonna spread, it generally happens very rapidly, and there was a pretty large chance I'd be in a wheelchair within the next 2 years. And of course, that was 5 years ago. I've been pretty lucky. Mine has spread up my left arm into my upper back, the shoulder on that side, and my jaw over there. And now I do believe it is spread into my leg. I broke my leg wherever 2 years ago, and it's doing the same thing where now it's starting to hurt. It feels cold, which is another symptom, or it feels hot compared to the other limb. It kind of feels like if you grew up in the South, that time you stepped in a fire ant bed and you didn't notice till you were covered. It feels like that. And that's what my hand felt like when it was just starting. So I really think that spread. The problem is there's nothing they can do about it.
So what causes spreads? Doesn't it have something to do with like new injuries or new trauma?
Honestly, they don't know. So I think it's only in 40% of people, I'd have to look up the specific statistic, that it does spread. Now, having an injury like somewhere else can make it spread, but in some people it just spreads. And they don't particularly know why. Like I said, because it's a neuro disorder, a lot of it is very not understood by science. So
yeah. Well, that's part of what we're doing today is that we're going to ask you some of the most common questions that people have and some that aren't so common. Just try to get more of a handle on what the disease is.
It is not considered a common disease.
Right.
But because I run in the circles I do, like it seems common
Everyone
to me.
is chronic in your
circle.
Yeah.
And I'm in a lot of CRPS groups on Facebook, but it really is not a common disease. People can get it from pretty much anything, which makes me kind of nervous, but honestly, it's so rare. It's like being scared of getting struck by lightning. It's just not a thing that happens that much.
Right.
I just happen to not be very lucky.
Yeah. You seem to have some very bad luck when it comes to health and surgeries required and doctors and health in general.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question we have on here is CRPS. Is it a disease of the nerves or is it a disease of the brain?
Well, so me and Brad were talking about this earlier because this one actually kind of confuses me because it's definitely a neuro disease, but also in the affected area, it causes temperature changes, swelling. It can change the hair growth in the area. Your nails can become brittle or thick. So that seemed to indicate to us that it was both, right?
Yeah, so I guess to me, it kind of makes sense if there's a physical change, like a physiological change that can kind of be tracked or whatever. That means there's something there. There's some kind of damage that, this is coming from somebody that's not a neuroscientist or anything like that. This is just an educated guess from what I know, but it sounds like there is some kind of damage that's pushing on the nerve to initiate that signal. But the brain is blowing it
out of proportion,
completely out of proportion. It's like, hey, you broke your hand. It's still broken. Why is it broken? Unbreak it. Go see a doctor, stupid.
Because what people forget is pain has a reason. It's supposed to alert you that something's wrong, but at some point you got to go, okay, brain, there's
Calm
nothing
down.
wrong. Stop it.
Yeah,
I need you to stop it.
Before I moved on too much further, I thought we should also mention that it didn't used to always be called CRPS.
No, so there's two types of CRPS, of complex regional pain syndrome. Type 1 used to be known as RSD, or reflex sympathetic dystrophy, but that's the name pretty much everyone knew for it. I had a friend from church when I was younger. My dad had a friend in church who had RSD. And when I first got this, I don't think my dad linked it because he'd never heard it called CRPS. Now, another name for it that's older is causalia. And that'd be for type 2, from a cause. But that one was just a very little known name.
Okay, so where on the pain scale would you put CRPS at? The pain that you feel from it?
Well, okay, so there's a scale called the McGill pain scale that they use pretty often, and it's actually highest rated on that. But for me, when I first got it, like if we're going a 1 to 10 pain scale, it would have been a flat 10. But as I've gotten used to it, and Julie asks, how has having RA affected it? It's just hard to tell, like, what causes what. Like, if my joints are swollen and they hurt on that hand, which thing is it?
Yeah, it can probably be kind of confusing. You don't know which one's being affected at one time.
Do you think one is a causation of the other, or that they're related somehow?
Linked?
I do know that because CRPS kind of mimics an autoimmune disease, that a lot of people with CRPS also have autoimmune diseases. But I'm not sure if one predisposes you to getting the other.
Is that understandable?
Yeah, I'm not absolutely sure on that one.
It's confusing because the symptoms of CRPS sound almost identical to the symptoms of fibro.
Yeah.
And so, what is the difference between the two disease? Like what differentiates CRPS from fibro?
Well, fibro is full body. It's everywhere. And that's like the pressure point test. It's, I also believe on the pain scale, it's not as severe. I'm thinking some people with fibro might argue that, but it's not as severe.
Well, because since it's all over, it's not the problem. I understand that because what you're saying is with CRPS, it's localized, it's pinpointed, so it's more intense. Whereas the other one is spread over a full surface, so it's more of a aching might be too mild of a word for it, but since it's spread out, like you just kind of hurt all over.
But the pain is very similar, though. It's both nerve-related pain. So it's the burning, sharp, which I think makes it more intense for a lot of people because everyone's used to that kind of throbbing, dull pain that you get from stuff. But the sharp pain that's very constant. Another thing about fibro is, as of yet, they have no clue why people get it.
Yeah, fibro is 100% idiopathic, right? And then with CRPS, it's like 50-50. Or
I wouldn't say 50-50. Most of it has a cause, but there is a subset of CRPS that is idiopathic. I would argue that they have had an injury,
but don't know what it was.
But don't know what it was. Like they stubbed their toe and they forgot about
like
it.
Like the injury I had in my foot recently. It's like something caused it, but I just don't know
what.
I don't know what I did to do it.
Is CRPS related to phantom pain, like when someone loses a limb? Yeah, it's the exact same process.
It just, the limb still happens to be there.
Yeah, it's phantom limb pain is your brain's going, oh, hey, your arm got cut off, but it's still there. It still hurts.
That's a good segue to talk about people that have tried to fix their CRPS by amputation and what happens.
A really common thing that happens in my CRPS groups is that someone will cut off their own limb. It's a very painful disease. This is not a rare thing that happens. I don't think a week goes out by without someone going, either they've convinced a doctor to do it or they've done it themselves. Like one guy rigged up a bagel slicer to be like an arm guillotine. The problem is he didn't make it through the bone. The problem is that it is the same disease process as phantom limb syndrome. So more often than not, these people are in the exact same place they were.
But now they just don't have the
limb. Now, in some people, like if they have it in a finger, sometimes if they get it cut off at the wrist, that'll make it go away. Mm-hmm. But I would not bet on it. I would definitely not. Like, I believe that if they had cut off my hand from the get-go, that I probably wouldn't have this. But since they didn't, that's not something I was going to pursue. Mm-hmm. Now, in some cases, it does cause such bad bone degradation that they will amputate. But that's pretty rare.
That was another thing, the other symptoms, because it has a lot of pain associated with it. And you said it's kind of got one will feel more cold than the other or more hot. And so what are the other symptoms of having CRPS besides the pain?
Yeah. So the other symptoms is swelling. It'll change colors. Like mine will turn red. It'll get mottled. A blue is another common, color for it to turn. The temperature changes can be pretty drastic. Like one will feel frigid or burning while the other is normal.
And we can feel that too. If you hold out your hand and say it feels really cold today, we can also feel that it is freezing.
I had Brad feel my foot the other night because I was like, is this in my head or is this real? And he said, no, it's a lot hotter than your other leg. Another one is the skin will get kind of shiny and thin, and you can see that on the back of my hand where that dip is, where the skin has kind of thinned out. Hair loss or coarse hair growth is another one, and they're kind of one or the other. Like you'll get thin nails or you'll get super thick nails. Eventually, your muscles atrophy and your bone starts to thin out, and that's like the later disease process.
But I think that part of it isn't. I think that's caused by lack of use of the limb or whatever, because it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
That you don't use it as much.
Like with phantom limb, does the injured nerve just shorten instead of continue to hurt rather than fixing the problem? I'm not sure if I'm. Can you word that better or different for me?
Cutting it off does not fix the problem.
Yeah. Like Raynaud's syndrome. Yeah, it is similar to Raynaud's, which is, if y'all don't know, like it's kind of like a lack of blood flow looking thing. Like your foot will turn blue, it'll get cold, it'll hurt. I know a lot of people that have that, but it does seem to have a lot of the same symptoms, but I'm not sure if blood flow is an actual factor in either.
To answer Kat's question that you were just trying to like put in words,
She added to it.
yeah. I mean, the reason cutting off the limb doesn't help is because a lot of the problem is at the brain as well. So even though there's nothing there to signal, the brain is still like in that.
Yeah, the problem is you can get rid of the symptom all you want, but the source of it is your brain.
Right.
And what they'll do in some people, and this will answer a later question about treatments, is a parasympathectomy, where they actually go and remove the parasympathetic nervous system from that side. So they completely eliminate the nerves and therefore your brain's ability to communicate with it in a pain sense. And I'm sure that removes a lot of your other senses too.
Yeah. So what are other treatments that have any kind of success besides that?
So they kind of have this list they run down. And it starts with nerve pain medications like Lyrica and gabapentin, which most people are familiar with those. They'll use it in cases like if you get shingles. They use it a lot in fibro. And for epilepsy. It's a common med for epilepsy. Say from there, opiates is another really common, thing they do. They also like to pair that with mental health care and rehabilitation because, like we were saying earlier, one of the main problems is people stop using it, and that compounds everything. Now, if you get into your more serious stuff, they do. I was having what they call stellate ganglion blocks. So what they were doing is they were putting a needle in through my voice box in the front of my neck into my spinal cord and injecting it with lidocaine and steroids to try and, fix it. And it fixes it. It can help for some time. And if they can do that super early, and some people that has helped them go into remission. Now, some of the more serious ones that are like ketamine, they'll put you in a coma for 5 days with ketamine. And what they're attempting to do is basically turn it off and back on again.
Reset the brain.
Yeah, they're trying to reset you. If you've
try
ever
turning it off and back on again.
If you ever watch House, there's an episode where he gets shot. And when he goes into surgery, they give him ketamine, and after that, he gets better for a while. He, I believe, has C.R.P.S. in his leg. I think that's what's going on with him.
Yeah, and there's like he does ketamine, and the other thing he does on that show that helps with the pain is methadone.
Methadone's just an opiate.
Well, yeah, but they were worried he was on heroin. He's like, no, I'm not on heroin. I'm on methadone. Yeah, and it's like, no!
My mom was on methadone for probably about a year, just for the pain. Like, it wasn't like to step down off of any other narcotics. They were actually using it to treat her pain. But
it can be effective if used right. Yeah.
The problem is a lot of doctors have stepped away from the nerve blocks, like the stellate ganglion block I had, just because they're messing with your spinal cord. Like, my doctor right now won't do them.
Yeah.
Just because they have a rate of, messing you up.
That's not the same thing as the bypassy thing.
Okay, so the craziest thing I attempted was a spinal cord stimulator. So what that is they basically electrocute your nerves to try and short out the system. So they put a cord into your spinal cord, and you do a trial for 2 weeks where it comes out of your back and you have a remote. You can turn it up or down. And basically when you hurt, it just shocks the nerve, and it's supposed to short the system so you don't feel the pain. And then eventually they put it in, and you have a permanent one. You have a remote on the outside. You can get rechargeable, not rechargeable. You can get one where every 5 years they have to go in and replace a battery. Or I don't think mine was rechargeable, because even those last for like 5 years. The rechargeable ones can last for like 10, but there's this whole charging process I didn't want to deal with. And the problem is, after I got mine, I started having seizures. After I had the permanent one put in, the first morning after that, I had this fit. And those lasted until I had it taken out. So.
And when you had the temporary one, I temporarily deactivated you one time.
I was on a ghost hunt. I tried to run from something, and I electrocuted the crap out of myself. It was pretty epic.
Do you think that are there any cures right now, or any leads for cures? Anything getting close to a cure? Anything like that?
There are no cures. They kind of do like the shotgun method, where they kind of just throw everything at you and hope something sticks. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people swear by ketamine. And there's a lot of other alt treatments they do, like some stuff where they biofeedback's a big one.
Like experimental drugs type of thing?
Experimental treatments where it's... it kind of combines the whole mental health care with the physical health care. Like I did a 2-week program at UT where they combined hooking you up to an EEG, doing biofeedback, psychotherapy, group therapy, and medications and physical therapy. Mostly what their goal is to treat you to cope with the pain. Say there are some other treatments like that I don't even know the name of, where you go and they like wire your brain up and like zap you with waves of some kind. I don't know.
It sounds like something from a horrific mental institution.
Nothing has a very good rate of remission. Mm-hmm. And depending on your age, like the younger you are, the better your chances for remission.
But even if there's not a cure, I mean, people are researching it. So
the problem is, because it is a rare disease, it does not get very many research dollars. Mm-hmm. The more popular a disease, the more money gets dumped into it.
Right.
So it is being researched, but it's not like breast cancer. It's not getting a bunch of money.
Because breast cancer is sexy. People like dumping money into Susan G. Komen.
Yeah.
And people want to save the boobies, and they forget those are attached to an actual person.
And they also forget that person might also have ovarian cancer or something, which also gets little to no funding.
It's apparently less sexy.
Yeah.
What did Kat ask? Even with anticonvulsants, I had seizures.
All right, so there are people leading the research. Are there any good organizations that are doing a lot of research
so
to donate to?
I've looked up a page. Let me find it. Let me find it on my crappy phone that is not working properly.
Oh, Lordy.
Blah, blah, blah. Treatments. Say something so I can read. What research is currently being done on CRPS? The mission of the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, or NINDS, is actually working on it.
NINS.
Let's see, they're the main one. There is a CRPS, group that...
Like foundation group or something?
I can look that one up to you. Ask the next question and I'll...
Okay. Well, you were saying that CRPS is not a common disease. So do you have any specific, percentage of the population that has CRPS, or just how common is it for realsies, like statistically?
Well, I can find that out real fast.
Oh.
Rare, fewer than 200,000 U.S. cases per year.
That is so very little people.
but I found a RSDSA.
RSDSA.
It's committed to funding and advocating for CRPS/RSD research and supporting the medical community.
And since you were looking at how common it is it more common in a particular demographic?
It's more common in females. That's like guys get it, but for some reason that and fibro and a lot of the nerve disorders are more common in females. It's more common in adults. I don't think they've ever had a case in a kid under 5. But kids between 5 and pubescent, they're another demographic that gets it pretty often, and they're not sure why. And they more often get the idiopathic version, and it's very often full body, but very often they go into remission. I just can't imagine having an 8 or 9-year-old kid with
dealing
what
with
I
that.
have. And I know, what's the name of the hospital? There is a really, like one of those research hospitals that,
John Hopkins?
it's not John Hopkins, but they have a big center for children with CRPS. And I've watched some of the videos that they put out. And
I bet it's horrific.
Yeah. And they did a movie pretty recently called Trial by Fire. That's about it's this guy his mom got CRPS, and he does a video, and one of the girls in it was from my CRPS group, and she was a teenager, and she passed away a few months after that came out from complications due to CRPS. It's not St. Jude's either. Oh my God, it's like a D name. But anyway,
So before you were diagnosed with CRPS, there are probably a lot of diagnoses that went around. So, what were your misdiagnoses and what you know what I mean? And what are the most common ones?
actually, I had really good luck with my CRPS diagnosis, which is
Except for
weird.
the fact that they said you can't
could
get it in
get
your hand.
Well,
compartment
no,
syndrome
they
in
said
your hand?
compartment syndrome. But once I'd actually gotten the CRPS, it was really interesting because the first pain doctor they sent me to, he immediately knew what it was, which was really lucky. Most people they tell they're crazy.
Yeah.
The really common is you're just exaggerating. It's not that big of a deal. A lot of times they think it's a broken bone. A lot of times there's another thing called thoracic outlet syndrome. That was one of my misdiagnoses, where there's that nerve that goes through your top rib and like your collarbone over here, where that outlet, the thoracic outlet, can shrink and kind of put pressure on that nerve. They thought I had that for a while, and they did physical therapy to try and fix that, but it turns out that's not what I had. But I guess only one misdiagnosis. But a lot of people do just end up with, they just have no clue.
Yeah, you're being crazy.
And
It's not
because
that
it
bad.
is so severe, they think people are exaggerating. I promise they're not.
So how do you test for it? Is there a test for it to see if it's a thing?
It's what you call the rule-out disease.
Rule out. It's not this. It's not
It's
this,
not that,
this,
therefore
must be
it's this.
That is like one of the worst methods.
Well, for a lot of things, that is the method,
Yeah.
though, because there's no, like they can do an MRI and see if the bone's falling apart, but if it's not advanced, it's not.
Jesus, that's like trying to ace a multiple choice test and you don't actually know the answer to the question.
Yeah.
What they do, they will do nerve function tests too, but the problem is with CRPS, it can appear your nerves are functioning normally because they're still working.
Too much, I'd say.
What my doctor, he said there were a list of points for the criteria, and you had to have like the pain that had lasted over a certain amount of time. It had to feel a certain way. You had to have at least 2 of the other symptoms, like the temperature change, the color change. Allodonia is another really big symptom, and that basically means, and I have really worked to get rid of that in my hand. It basically means that even someone blowing on it feels like you're being stabbed. It's just a hypersensitivity. And what I did for that was, just smash things into my hand. But no, what they do for that
That's one
is
method.
what they do for that is they'll take like different
Well, that's
texture.
true. Like, she'll get me to rub her hand.
Yeah, but they usually take they start with different textured cloths, and they'll rub that on your hand, and you'll move up from there. But yeah, something I do that most people with CRPS don't want you to do is I'll have someone rub my hand, And I'm not sure why it helps while it's being done. It's almost like it makes it hurt worse right then, so it feels better. I don't know.
Feels better right after. Maybe.
Another thing I do that makes me look like a lunatic is I walk around with my hand up here. Like if I'm out hiking, you'll see me stick my hand up in the air because putting it down makes it hurt worse.
Well, it probably helps with the inflammation.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other stuff I do at home. I was going to mention it later, but ice is a big no-no with CRPS. It can make it spread.
Can get your arm deported.
Oh my God. Ice can make it spread. It can make your symptoms more severe. So you're not supposed to use ice. But however, some people disagree with that and say you should use ice. Heat's a big one that people want you to use. I find that if I keep up with my physical therapy, if I do that at least twice a day, that overall I feel much better. Resting it when it's wrecked, knowing when to go, I need to stop now. But taking muscle relaxers at night, so I clench it when I sleep for some reason, and it'll get like locked. And
Because it's a rebel.
making sure I'm not like sleeping on it or sleeping with it in a weird position is a big one.
So other than the kind of daily routines that you do, have you been prescribed any meds for it, or did you take any kind of meds
I
for
take
it?
all the drugs for it.
All the drugs.
Oh, hey, that's a good point. Flutotherapy. It's old, but they do it in physical therapy. Swimming helps.
Yeah.
you a
Swimming
lot.
helps, and they do like with the machine, they blast like superheated corn husks at me. They'll do that with like jets and water, and that I like that. But like I said, a lot of people with CRPS, that is a no-go for them. What were you saying?
Meds.
Okay,
Here on.
so I started out with no daily medications, doing the stellate ganglion blocks, and I went to a pain cream that had God, I forget, but it was basically ibuprofen mixed with a hardcore narcotic that didn't absorb very well that way. So it wasn't like making me high, but it was supposed to help. I went from there. I went to basically ibuprofen and Lyrica and gabapentin. From there, I went to
Everything.
Ultram, which is a very low key opiate. I went to Vicodin, to Percocet, and then to fentanyl with Percocet for breakthrough pain. And I was actually at 75 micrograms of fentanyl every 3 days, and I'm down to 25.
Jeez, so you have taken the entire
Yeah.
encyclopedia of medical prescriptions and medications, and you took all of them.
And let's see, I tried to, like, they prescribed me a couple of others. The problem was they were so outrageously expensive that I couldn't. Julie says, does weather make a difference for you? Yeah. I have to wear a glove when it's cold. That makes it hurt pretty bad. But honestly, I prefer the cold to the heat because heat just makes me feel overall crappy.
Yeah.
Catherine wants to know, does moist heat versus dry heat?
Moist heat's better for me.
Moist. Sorry.
Moist.
Had to get away from the mic to yell that.
Is our ice melting?
Moist.
Maybe.
Yeah, that thing is fucking cold.
Okay, so there's a thing you can do. Because one of the big questions I get is, what does this feel like? So we're going to play a game, and I've heard this works. I don't know if this works.
We shall see.
What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to stick your hand in a bucket of ice for 60 seconds, and that's supposed to mimic
Hold on, leave that there because I'm going to...
what it feels like. So Casey and Brad are going to play a game.
But
Yes.
I've added stakes to the experiment because we're cool.
Okay, what's the stakes?
I got the EEG out. So we're going to... the person that's doing it, we're going to hook them up to the EEG, and then we're going to see...
Oh, it's funny because Catherine said accept Dilaudid. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital just cracked out of my mind on Dilaudid for a kidney stone once, and let me tell you, my hand felt a lot better. Mina just got on. How did you get diagnosed with CRPS? I saw a pain doctor. There are CRPS specialists, but they're very rare. Most people see a pain doctor. I say a neurologist can also diagnose it because it is a neurological disease, but a pain doctor is your best bet.
I'll get this.
Okay. So Brad's going to set up our little low stakes game here.
Awesome possum. I thought we were going to do it at the same time and then see who lasted longer.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just gonna
Okay.
set up a timer.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you wanna?
Are you going first or am I going first?
Yeah, it says this sounds like a lame version of SOD. You want to play a game? So, are you gonna do a timer, or do you want me to?
You'll do the timer.
Okay.
I gotta get the thing from
Okay.
my laptop.
Well, while he's doing that,
You can ask another
so
question while I say that.
CRPS, is it considered a disability? Can you get any kind of benefits from it?
It can be considered a disability. Here's why mine is not considered a disability. It's in my fucking offhand.
Oh, Jesus.
It is in my offhand. And that is why I could not sue the hospital that sent me home with, you can't get compartment syndrome in your hand, because it's my offhand. If it had been my primary hand,
You could have gotten disability.
I could have gotten
benefits from it
disability.
and sued the hospital.
and if you're ambidextrous, they only count one hand. Just throwing that out there.
So if you're ambidextrous and you get it in one of your hands, just lie and say that's your primary
Because I wrote with my left hand, but I didn't know that I needed to say that. So I said right hand, and they went, well, sorry, no money for you,
Oh, jeez.
bro. Does it have it just in my hand? Yeah. Like Catherine said, it spread to my leg, shoulder, and I believe my lower left leg, left jaw, neck sometimes. I don't know, when it starts to spread, it kind of starts for me with like pangs. So sometimes I'll panic. I'm like, is that it? Is that the CRPS spreading? And then it'll get better, and then sometimes it'll just keep going, and I'm like, well, crap.
So do you think early diagnosis helps with it?
It has been proven that getting diagnosed and treated in the first 6 months greatly makes your chances of remission higher.
That's awesome. Try
Because
to get it done fast.
I had a friend who had listed all these symptoms she was having in her foot, and I went, listen, I might be freaking out here, but I really think you need to go and see if there's a CRPS, because you've had it for 4 weeks. Get it fixed now. And she went, and sure enough, it was CRPS, and hers has improved a lot.
See, catch it early. It's one of those things of even if you don't like doctors, sometimes you got to go see them. And especially if it's something that could really severely affect you down the
Because
line.
CRPS can straight up kill you.
Yeah. So if you think at all possibly that what you might be experiencing is complex regional pain syndrome, go see your doctor. The next question I have here. Can CRPS affect organs that are typically not wired for pain?
Well, that was what I was going to say. So your organs are all wired for pain. Brad wrote down that question. You can get something called systemic CRPS. And there was a really big question as to whether I had this or not when I got the gastroparesis. I couldn't eat for 2 years. I lost a bunch of weight. I had really severe stomach pain, lots of vomiting. Because that is one of the main signs that you've gotten systemic CRPS. Another big organ it affects is the bladder, where it causes, it can turn into a condition called interstitial cystitis.
Say that 5 times.
Yeah, I can't say it one time. Which is basically, bladder pain. Does my friend with CRPS have an autoimmune disease? Yes, I believe I'm not sure she has celiac disease. I know she's
Or
gluten free.
gastroparesis,
She doesn't have gastroparesis. I know she's gluten free, but I'm not sure if it's because she has celiac.
Or just because she's gluten free.
But I know she at least has non-celiac gluten sensitivity. But I know she has another autoimmune disease. I'm not positive which one, because these are all friends of mine from a gluten-free group from when they thought I had celiac disease.
Right.
But it can affect your brain. It can affect your lungs and
Everything.
I've got a friend on one of my groups that it's actually like killing because her organs are starting to fail.
Well, that's part of the next question. What other diseases or conditions accompany it? So what can it
And Emilio
cause?
just asked, so can CRPS actually kill you, or are you talking about self-inflicted damage to get rid of CRPS?
Both.
Well, the most common way it kills you is suicide. It's called the suicide disease.
It's very painful.
Most people kill themselves. Most people don't do 20 years with this, but it can kill you. It's rare. This isn't a thing I'm worried about, but it can kill you. It makes your organs degrade. Like you're talking, it causes other diseases, and it really causes a breakdown in mental health.
I bet. Yeah, if you're constantly in pain.
Constantly in pain, not to mention that you do have some sort of brain damage, or this wouldn't be happening.
And the fact that most people, say it's a mental problem, and then therefore you're kind of written off and thrown under. So that adds even more to
and
the
that it's
mental
so
side
hard
of
to get disability with it. But out of all the diseases I have, and I've got a lot of diagnoses, this is the one that wrecks my life. Everything else I can just sort of.
But
this one is impossible to cope with.
So you said it hurts. Obviously, does it weaken your hand? You can't really do as much with anymore.
It does weaken it. Like occasionally, I'll be carrying something. Usually, it's hot soup, and my hand will just crap out.
Hot soup and drop it on your chest.
Yeah, it'll just. It's like it just releases, and that's not a pain thing. It's not because it hurts.
Maybe it's because it's kind of always tensed up, and then it just kind of
Another thing is, I say that using it helps you not lose it, but even if you use it on the daily, eventually it does degrade. It's just a long-term thing.
Right. There's something written here that I don't know what the thing about it is, but it says, are dental problems part of the disease?
Yeah, that's another one that's really big, is for some reason it causes dental decay. And they're not sure if that's the meds or like a process of the disease, but for some reason, people with CRPS very commonly have bad teeth.
That is weird. I wonder what the connection, what's the link there?
I
that
don't
is so
honestly
odd.
know.
So how
Amina
hard was
asked,
it?
did this all start after I hurt my hand? Yeah, when the weight fell on it in 2012 was what
The crushing.
started. And I'm not sure if it was the injury or the resulting swelling,
not dealing with the
and
compression
surgery.
syndrome.
And all the nerve damage from that. It could have
Yeah.
been the initial injury. It could have been the wait to get it fixed, and it could have been the surgery.
It could have been a combination of all
Yeah.
the things too. We just don't know. So how hard was it to find a doctor? Do you have a doctor now that helps you with it? Any kind of physical therapy, or how hard was it to get to see the pain doctor?
Initially, like I said, I had really good luck finding the first pain doctor, and that's because my mom had been seeing someone at their office for her degenerative disc disease, and so she knew who to recommend. And I had a doctor who'd been taking care of me for years and had been through all this crap with me. The first doctor to ever listen and help me.
For once.
And he didn't think twice about writing the referral. And I went to this pain doctor, and this pain doctor was very helpful. The problem is I owe that doctor about $37,000 for that spinal cord stimulator. So I've had to find a new pain doctor who I also like. My problem with him is he doesn't do as much alt treatments. He's very... These are the things I can do. These are the things I don't do. He doesn't do blocks. So if I want to do all that stuff, I'm going to have to find another doctor to do it. And it's outrageously expensive to treat this disease.
Oh, I bet.
Because insurance doesn't want to cover.
Okay. Okay.
Like insurance, they said they covered my spinal cord stimulator, and then they didn't.
I'm just going to wear them like this.
You look super awesome.
Thank you. Hi, guys. I've got a thingy on my head. Okay. So I have written here SCS.
I already talked about that was the spinal cord stimulator.
Okay.
Well, do y'all want to play your game?
Oh, well, there's only 2 questions
okay.
left on here, so I figure we might as well save the thing for the end. So what is the link between vitamin C and CRPS?
So I'm not sure why this works. But if you have CRPS, or if you know anyone with CRPS, here's some good advice, and you got to look up the actual dosage. But massive amounts of vitamin C taken before surgery or after an injury can prevent spread. They aren't sure why. This is a hippie voodoo medicine that actually works. For some reason, massive doses of vitamin C can prevent spread.
Well, there you go. There's a good hint for the day. Yeah. The last question we had on here was surgery. Does it make CRPS spread?
Surgery can make CRPS spread, and that's a problem for me because, I have 5 surgeries
so many
a year.
surgeries, yeah.
But I actually haven't ever had spread from a surgery.
No? Mm-mm. Or you just don't know?
I think the one on my arm when I had the last infection might have made it spread faster, but it was already spreading before that. Now, breaking my leg,
I was going to say, I thought your leg might have something to do with it because you broke your leg near where that hole was.
Yeah, I had the infections in my leg and the surgeries, but the CRPS feeling's pretty recent. I know broken bones are one of the main causes.
Yeah.
What is
That
that?
thing is making some noises.
Oh, so this thing tells you when you're like concentrating or.
That's why y'all heard it because it's coming through my mic. But when she's like going through the questions and she's listening to you talk, her attention level, like right now, you're at 100 on attention. Like you pay attention when people are talking to you.
That's so weird.
I do pay attention to people.
I know you
It's the opposite with Sarah.
I know you think acupuncture is not a real treatment. Thanks for acknowledging that I think that's crap, Catherine. But is it contraindicated? Would that make it worse? So potentially that could cause spread. Like some people will swear tattoos have caused spread. But
I'm really focused.
but there's also people in my CRPS group that have said that acupuncture has helped them.
Well, that's what I was saying the other day was that all of these that you were saying weren't actual treatments or whatever. I said, but the thing that does work is placebo.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if somebody believes it's going to work. Sometimes just the
my
belief
problem with
alone.
acupuncture is potentially you could do a lot more damage because you're sticking a needle in a nerve. Like you're not, and that's if you actually hit the nerve. Like the chance.
But most people with acupuncture, like they're skilled at it. Like I know a lot of people that get acupuncture.
I know, but it's the same mode of thinking like we had a long time ago. It's like, well, we'll bleed the disease out of him, because if you put a needle into a nerve, you're damaging it. That's not going to be beneficial in any way unless you just think it is.
Well, and a lot of times I don't encourage like what you'd call Eastern medicine or alternative medicine.
Because you're racist.
But at some point, like I've gotten to the point where CRPS where I'd try pretty much anything.
I actually was trying to be a psychiatrist.
Yeah, Casey has
a degree in psychology.
Yeah. Yeah, like Julie said, people are individuals, and it's so different what helps.
Yeah.
It's like any other medication. I mean,
Yeah.
something that works for you may not work for me.
It's
what
like
makes-
I can tell you what works for me, and I can tell you what hasn't worked for me, but I've tried things repeatedly for this just because maybe this time.
Well, that was the last question on the questionnaire.
So when we do the thing, you'll probably want to take the headphones out because
Yeah.
if you bump it around or whatever, it kind of gives some bad readings.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Okay, so once again, this game is put your hand in a bucket of ice water for 60 seconds, and it's supposed to feel like CRPS. And then I'm going to try and describe what CRPS feels like to me. And you're supposed to describe to your wrist. And you're supposed to describe what this feels like to you. Because I'm trying, the initial thing was, I don't know how to describe this to people. And the question I get most often is, what does it feel like? I don't know how to say, so...
Mina said acupuncture made her like hell, and she bled in places she'd never bled before.
Yeah, I've been scared to try acupuncture, but...
I haven't done this before, so...
It hurts.
Okay. Okay, so I'll start, and then you stick your hand in, okay?
Ready?
Go.
Oh, I couldn't even get through the
I just hold it in there.
Oh, God, that hurts.
Your mic's over there, just by the way.
Man, them things.
It hurts.
I'm going to do it at the end. I've got to know.
Oh, buddy.
Man, that attention dropped to nothing.
And this is why...
Her meditation's like going up. She's trying to block out the
but
pain.
Do you remember how my brain thing was all over? It is the pain. It's gotta be.
Yeah, because
God,
you know
that
what? Her
hurts.
brain waves are matching. Like hers, the way it's going is like yours were.
Yeah.
That
It feels
is
like I'm
nuts.
starting to lose feeling in my fingers.
If it starts to get too bad, take it out.
Well,
Don't
how
hurt
much
yourself.
time do I have
Don't be a-
left?
don't be
15
wimp.
seconds.
I can do this.
14, 13, 12.
God, it hurts
That's not what
so
your
bad,
brainwaves
though.
say. Her alpha's dropped to 0.
See, this is why I'm stupid.
Her brain turned off. Part of her brain turned off. I just watched this happen.
Okay, you're good. You're good.
Oh, God. Frick.
Okay, so now,
By the way, guys, that's alpha, and that's responsible for like your cognitive thinking. If you were paying attention, that just shut off.
My fingers
Completely.
are white.
okay, do me now.
Oh, are you doing
I
it?
want to do it.
Oh, God.
Watch it make her like thing
Freak.
normal out.
Oh, feel my hand.
Hey, be sure you do it
Feel
on
me.
your not.
Touch my hand.
Are you gonna do the?
Touch it.
Ooh, that sucks. Are you gonna put that on? It's clipped to her ear. Be careful. Take your headphones off.
Oh God, it's still freezing. God, it hurt.
Tell me when it goes.
Oh, get like here so it can, because it's trying to disconnect the headset.
I'll let you know when the feelings come back to my fingers because they're still not there.
So what does it feel like, though?
It burns just a lot. It feels like frostbite.
You don't have a good connection because you refuse to ever put that thing on correctly.
Okay, so the way I
Come around
describe
here.
it would be if you've ever been outside, it's very cold, you don't have any gloves, and you blow on them and you blow on them, and they just won't get warm, and then it gets to a point that they start to get hot, and it kind of burns like frostbite. That would be the closest thing I could say, but if you've never had, just stand out in the cold with your hands in the freezing, frigid wind, and then double that. I'm starting to get feeling back, but my hand is red and still very cold.
See, that's what I've tried to explain it to people before. I've said, like, when you go out in the cold and you, like, play with ice, then you come back in and you run hot water over your hand.
Yeah, it's like that's pretty much what I'd say, is that it got so cold and then just kind of hot, and then you lose the feeling in it.
If it doesn't work, just don't worry about it.
My fingers are red. I don't know why you're trying to do this thing. You already got it. Why are you doing it? Stop it. No.
I gotta know.
God, you're going to end up with the CRPS in your other hand.
It shouldn't do that since I'm...
It shouldn't, but you're the weirdo that gets all the rare, weird stuff that happens to you. Ooh. My hand's back to normal now.
Well, here, do you
You
want...
screwed it up because you ripped it off
Oh.
Casey's head. So, you know, since you can't be patient, we can't have nice things.
Oh, I didn't hurt it.
I was gonna set it up, but no, you.
Stop being mean to me. Do the timer.
Stop being impulsive.
I can't help it.
That's why you have CRPS.
Because you're impulsive?
Because I'm impulsive?
Yes, apparently. Smoke break on a brisk winter's day with no gloves. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wasn't sure if you guys could see how red it was. But, whoo, buddy.
You ready? Go.
That is one big chunk of ice.
Yeah, I couldn't even get through there.
A minute's a long time.
Yeah, because at first I was like, this isn't so bad. It's not for much longer. Then I'm like, how long do I have? 15 more seconds.
How long do you think it's been?
I don't have 15 seconds. What?
Been like 8.
So, what do you think you do if you had that all the time? Just...
Ignore it. Ignore it until I couldn't anymore.
You think you'd be willing to cut off a limb?
I mean, since I know that that doesn't work, then no.
What if you thought it worked?
If I had to feel that all the time, maybe. You're done. She's like, this isn't any different. This is fine.
Just feels like my other hand.
Does it feel like your other hand? Would you compare the two?
Yeah, it's pretty similar, actually.
Oh, okay. See, I thought you were going to say, that feels nothing
Maybe
like
I
what
should put
it's
my
like.
foot in there.
No.
No, don't put your foot in there.
Nobody wants your nasty foot water.
I'd say the other hurts worse. But I'm not sure if it just hurts slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
It's more burny.
Feel the burn.
Bernie Sanders?
That's what I was
Feel the
thinking.
burn.
I can't see the new comments.
Oh, I'll look at them in a second.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'll tell you when.
Get through that ice block.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Go.
Oh, he broke it. He broke it. I couldn't get past that dang ice.
Watch, she's gonna be like, this doesn't hurt at all, you pussies.
I was going to put my mic closer so that he can...
You
Breathe
pussies.
into it. This
Yeah.
sucks.
It's the real problem is
Okay, how long is it? Because that hurts.
it's been 30 seconds. Take it out if it hurts too bad.
It does.
Take it out then, you dork.
Take it out, God.
It really hurts.
And then describe what it feels like.
Ow, it hurts. Ow.
You're not in a
It
mic.
hurts like ow.
You're not in a mic.
It hurts, owie. It's so bad.
Does it hurt, Howie?
It hurts owie.
Dude, if I just had to live with that, like, it hurt here.
See, mine all hurt in my fingers.
It hurt in my joints really bad.
Oh.
Well, now it's at 60 seconds. So
Woo.
I couldn't hang. It's cool.
it's fine.
It's
you don't
fine.
have to.
I'm not the pain person.
I'm not the pain person. But yeah, I'd compare it to frostbite or being close to frostbite because it's that very cold to very hot. And
Because it's below 0?
yeah, no, I'm just saying the way that I would describe it would be if you've ever, like Julie said, smoke break on a brisk winter's day with no gloves for like 4 hours and it's below freezing and the wind's blowing and what? If you want it to hurt, put salt in it.
Is CRPS like CRPS?
No,
like
that's how you end up.
ALS?
That's not even funny, Kat. We did that to somebody in school, not realizing what that
Oh,
would
putting
do.
salt in the water. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Someone tried. Like I don't know enough about ALS.
I don't know either.
Is that a demyelinating disease?
That's. I used to know this,
Because
and I
it's a
couldn't tell you.
neuro. I'll look it up real quick.
Is it because of the ice bucket challenge?
Well, someone tried to get this started for a while to try and show people what this is like, but because the Lou Gehrig thing had already made the rounds, but ALS is a nervous system disease that weakens muscles and impacts physical function. So I guess they would have some similarities, but this is more like a pinpoint as opposed to a full body.
It
Also-
is
also,
ALS like a genetic or whatever, as opposed to injury or something like that?
Yes, yeah, and it's also not usually associated with high levels of pain. Is more losing control of the.
Yeah,
the
overall, ALS seems like a worse disease because it's fast. It's quicker for the degeneration.
Unless you're a genius robot in a wheelchair.
Hey now, Stephen Hawking for the win.
So now someone comes up to you and they say, "What does CRPS feel like, Brad? Describe it."
It's not burning. It's not a burning pain. For me, that was like felt like my hand was actually being like intensely like crushed, like intense pressure like in the joint. So
Yeah, I was trying to explain that.
I
didn't
it
get.
kind of felt like someone was peeling the flesh off my hand.
See, that's how I try and describe it to people.
Yeah.
It's like if you ever had a burn, a really bad burn, like bad enough that it hurts, but not so bad that you've had nerve damage and you can't feel it, and then like
Like
when
if
part
someone
of
was
that
just
peels
like
off.
peeling the skin back. That's kind of how it felt like.
I didn't get that. It felt more like
Yeah, the
pressure,
ice
like,
to me
all
feels
around
more throbby.
in compressing. Yeah, it.
So that means, does CRPS affect everyone differently then? Because
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Because for me,
I may interpret that may be the reason I couldn't hold my hand in there as long, because I may interpret pain, and it may just be like localized to my hands or whatever. But I may interpret pain different than you guys do. Because I was talking about this with somebody the other day. Like, I'm really not into pain like tattoos. Like a lot of people like to go get tattoos because they enjoy the process. I get tattoos because I like the end result. But sitting there and getting the tattoo, it is pretty excruciating too. Like I don't enjoy that part. Like I don't sit there and squirm, but I'm definitely blocking it because Ryan's done all my tattoos. And when he was doing this one, he kept talking. I was like, dude, just shut up. Stop talking to me, because I'm really just blocking it completely out.
Yeah, and I
don't enjoy getting tattoos.
I don't enjoy getting tattoos, but I do some weird stuff that is painful. Like I like to pull the hair out of me, not my head, but like leg hair or whatever, or other hair. I just like to rip it out.
that's
Like,
weird.
I just
That's
pull,
oddly specific, dude.
I just pull it out, and I don't know why. It
What
hurts,
up,
You're
but
a
I like it.
weird
I don't
human.
know.
It's like people that like popping their toes.
Self-inflicted pain is also different.
Dude,
than,
popping the what?
Popping toes.
Oh, I love popping my toes.
I hate that.
I pop fucking everything.
Yeah, dudes do interpret pain differently. If you have a certain amount of estrogen in your system, pain is easier to cope with.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if trans people interpret pain different. I wonder if you interpret it more like me.
I don't know.
I would say that if they have normal hormones to begin with, then they would interpret it like whatever the hormones line up with, and as it changes, their interpretation would change.
Maybe.
So it wasn't an incomplete experiment, but your brainwave patterns did suddenly change and matched more what hers looked like on a previous run through, like a test.
Like when my brain shut down for all the pain, it was like, girl.
So for our other experiments, that might be something we add to the panel of things. To
I'd like to see the results of that, actually. So that'd be fun. Like, when am I more feminine and when am I more masculine?
Because I've always wondered, like, there's a lot of stuff that I do that doesn't seem to hurt me like normal people. I think that's because it's my constant. But I don't know for sure. Like, do you interpret pain? I mean, you have chronic pain. Do you feel like you interpret it differently because you have it all the time?
It's possible. I mean, I know that everybody is different. Everyone experiences pain different, and everyone experiences the same pain different. So 2 crushed hands do not equal the same crushed pain. So, I mean, I guess everybody would interpret it differently regardless. But then I guess there's just added layers to how you feel because you have chronic pain, or if it's constant, or if it's and so I guess it just kind of.
I try to.
Are you still trying to get the feeling back?
No, it's now my hand feels like it burns.
Yeah.
Now it feels like it.
But how would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10?
That, like, right now it's like a 3.
Yeah.
It's maybe a 2. It's like,
It's just so I didn't hear
When I
what
was
you
in the water, I would have said 8.5 or 9.
my hands are extremely sensitive though, because I do a lot of stuff like I play guitar and that. Like I have real dexterous hand. Like I wonder if I stuck my foot in there if I would have a completely different response.
And I
to
have
it.
like arthritis and carpal tunnel.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's my issue is that I have it from doing that.
So the question I ask you, like I asked Casey, is what if that was your date? Like if that was all the time?
If that was all the
Yes.
time, dude, I'd kill myself. Like straight up, because that's fine for doing it and you know it's gonna end, but if I had something that just felt like that constantly, like every second of the day, and I didn't know what was gonna turn it off or what would fix it at all.
I think eventually I would adapt to kind of be able to tolerate it.
To
but
ice bucket hand?
I wouldn't be okay with it. I think that I would eventually go, okay, that's there, I guess.
Unless that
and
comes
then,
with a superpower where I can touch people
It
and
does
they just
not come with a superpower.
and they just turn to dust like Thanos, maybe I'd find a way to
I
adapt
mean, so
to
try
it.
not
but-
to be a butt about this, but that is that's all the time. That's the thing about CRPS is how that felt.
no, I was saying eventually, since it's always there, I would kind of get used to
what
it
you
being
should do?
there, but never like it.
Every
never
time
be
you go
okay
to the
with it.
doctor, you should go with a cooler of ice.
And just stick your hand in
And
there.
when they're like, "What are you at today?" and you're like, "It's a 7," they're like, "Okay, that sounds manageable." Stick their head in there until the bubbles stop.
I'm just kind of trying to like make a point is that CRPS, one of the hallmarks of it is it doesn't remit. Like how pain can throb, it gets worse, it gets better. You can curl into a ball, you can make it better. There is nothing you can do. You cannot escape it. It is 24/7. It is constant. I dream about it. There is not a second of the day it does not feel like that. And it's really hard to get across to people, especially in our society where I don't want to whine about it. But it does not stop.
Yeah.
Kat brought up at risk of sounding like a hippie. She says, "Do you think meditation can help chronic pain?" And the answer is yes, but only while you're doing it, and B, only if you can get to a meditative state. If you're already in pain, it's hard to sit there and meditate.
Yeah. You have to
And-
get there before you started hurting.
And like with the biofeedback thing, that was a lot of meditation, and that does help. It does have some holdover in helping where it doesn't help the pain, but it helps you cope with it, which is a big part of dealing with it is not blowing my brains out. So
I want to try. I want to see if I can last the whole 60 seconds.
I felt like after the 60 seconds, it didn't feel as bad.
Right, like it bottomed out.
Yeah, like it got used to it, and then it wasn't as bad.
Yeah,
anymore.
when I was that's a good point. The whole time I was doing it, I felt like it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
And then it
even
eventually
past
gets to that of just this is how it feels now.
Well, I
The
didn't
other-
get to that. Even at the halfway mark, it was still getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
The other problem with chronic pain diseases is just when you think you've gotten used to it,
And then it just goes worse.
something makes it
Yeah.
worse.
Or it spreads to a
every
different
time.
area.
Yeah.
So like you might get used to it being in your hand and then you wake up with it on your arm. You're not used to it being
'Cause,
there.
yeah, I had a
so,
few months a couple years ago where it was still just in my hand.
God.
And I woke up one morning and I was like, this is tolerable. I can live my day to day like this. And then it went up my arm and I was like, well, shit.
I'm going to kill myself now.
Do you think that hypnosis guy could help you remain in a meditative state? Like he's,
Not that.
I don't believe that, because for me especially, pain comes with a complete inability to focus.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm already in pain, there's just no way to focus for me. It's the reason I can't write. Like when I tell people I used to write, I can't now. They go, "Oh, well,
This
just
is
use
writer's block. I do this.
Or they say use Dragon software. I understand your hand hurts. I'm like, it's not because my hand hurts. Well, I mean, it's because my hand hurts.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with my hand not functioning normally. It's my brain no longer functioning normally.
Yeah.
Also, because hypnosis just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's
Amelia said, I think with meditation, it's not about getting rid of the pain. It's more not associating with the pain, letting it be there, but not giving it your attention. Yeah.
disconnecting.
Yeah.
Which I
disassociate
wasn't-
a lot from my pain.
Which I wasn't doing right there. Like I was focusing.
No, I focused on something up there and just stared at it. And then
I'm gonna try again for the 60. I'm gonna
look
try
up
that
at your
for the
keep calm, I'm the
It
doctor.
honestly doesn't bother me that much, but I think it's because of my daily. But I do tend to disassociate, and I tell people when I'm doing that, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Because
Do
it's
not
like-
talk, I'll be angry.
Oh
And
yeah. You didn't talk about the the thing you describe it like the hit.
Like, okay, so everybody's been clocked in the nose on accident or whatever. And you know that feeling when you get hit in the nose and everybody goes, are you okay? Oh my God, are you okay? And you're like, I might be eventually if you just shut your effing mouth because you're talking to me and you're making it worse. It's like that. It's
Yeah.
when people try to talk to me when I'm trying to space, you're taking me back to that.
yeah, you are bringing me back to where I do not want to be. Go away. I will let you know when it's okay. Are you trying again?
You don't have to do this. Are you doing your foot?
We can't get that on camera, though.
It's fine. We'll get his face on camera.
Okay,
Put
well,
your face on camera.
Put your face on camera. Do it.
I'll do it over there. I'll do the full 60 seconds.
You don't have to do this, It's,
you wanna-
I do.
it's
I
not
feel
a
like-
competition.
Do you want to try the head thing?
It was a competition. We said it was a competition.
Do you want to try the head thingy?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't want to hook it up.
Okay. All right. Here's your
Now
towel.
do your foot.
No, I don't want to do my hand.
Oh, God. This is a mistake.
God,
You're gonna
this
be
is such a
sad.
guy thing, isn't it?
I guess.
A stupid guy thing.
All right. You got a timer? Because I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, because my seconds were going to get faster and faster.
Brad, do the whole 60.
Okay, tell me when you're ready.
Oh, shoot. Oh, he already went. Focus on something in the room. Just anything. Focus on it.
Okay, it hurts in my knuckles.
Pick a spot at the wall and stare.
Shut up, I'm describing it. It hurts in my knuckles, and it's spreading down from my knuckles to the tips of my fingers. Now the palm of my hand is hurting really bad. And it feels like it's just swelling up and being crushed. It feels like it's being crushed. What am I at now?
30 seconds. You're doing good.
You've already passed your last one.
Yeah, you're winning.
Woohoo! Go, Brad. You're winning.
It's not bottoming out. It keeps hurting and hurting and hurting. And
Mine's never bottomed out.
It's in the web of my hand.
Mine's never bottomed out. It always just hurts worse and worse and
Can it
worse.
just be done?
Yeah, it can just be done. You've only got 10 seconds.
9, 8. Wait, I can't even see.
7,
6.
5, 4, 3, 2. You did it!
Huzzah!
Oh God! Ow. It hurts here so bad.
Oh my God, why did you do it?
So I could do that?
Spaz. You're such a dick.
You've got some in my eyeball. I can't see out of
I
it
hope you
now.
get CRPS in your eyeball.
God, what did I do?
Oh, that was another thing they wondered when that stuff was going on with my eye, if it had spread to my
Oh my
eyeball.
God.
I was
God,
like,
yeah.
dear God,
I would
no.
help you with suicide. That in your eye?
Yeah, I know, man.
Oh, it's still, it hurt. So it hurts here?
Just for the record, that eye pain was like CRPS on crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone who's had a kidney stone, the high point of that pain where it's super sharp is a lot like CRPS.
You know what? If I had a kidney stone, I'd take a kidney stone over doing that permanently.
A
Because at
kidney
least
stone
the kidney
ends.
stone
Goes away.
it stops. Like, you know, and you're like, and there's like a little bit of relief.
See, that would be my thing, is that a lot of the time I disassociate from my pain and I get used to it being there. But if it ever started in a different area, I would have to restart all over again at trying to get used to that. And then if it just kept going, eventually you're going to run out of things. And then you either got to get used to it being everywhere or you're going to off yourself.
So let's start a thing with all the people that are watching. Like, if you get a chance, get a bucket of ice water, do it for 60 seconds.
Don't
film
put
your-
salt in it.
Don't
Don't
put
put salt in
Jesus
it.
Christ, no. Put acid in there. No,
Which kind?
do it for 60 seconds, but film yourself and send in the video or whatever to
Yeah.
the page of everybody doing it. That'd
maybe
be cool.
film yourself doing it and then a little description
Yeah,
afterward of how
I
you
just
think
like
it
to hear
feels.
typed up descriptions because
Yeah.
I'm always looking for ways to explain to people what this feels like because I
Degloving.
I understand it's impossible to grasp any form of chronic pain if you don't have it. Mm-hmm. But specifically something that never goes away. Mm-hmm. Gamina says F kidney stones. I just had my first one a few weeks ago and had to have surgery in a stent. No way, yeah, the first kidney stone I ever had was 4 millimeters and it was what they call a staghorn. So it got stuck in my ureter and I did 4 weeks with it stuck because they just kept pushing water. They did a stent. I had that in for 2 weeks and then they did the lithotripsy. And the sharpness of the pain, at least when I had it, was very similar to CRPS. In the quality of pain, kidney stones are god awful though. I've had
Yeah, they
three
are.
now.
Yeah, I didn't mean to sound like that. They are excruciating.
No, yeah, I've
but
had-
but the thing is it's like and then
Yeah.
it's like that. That's like 60 seconds. Screw you.
And that is why there is such a
How long
high
do
suicide rate.
contractions last when you're?
It depends. Like when they first start, only a few seconds, and then they ramp up.
But that feels like pressure, right?
I
That's what
can't
they
describe
say.
contractions to you.
Thanks.
Sarah, you
feels
should put your
like-
foot in and see if it feels different from your hand.
Put your face in it. Just
I'm curious.
Oh,
Let me
it's
see.
warmed up a lot. It's not as cold anymore.
Yeah, because it took all my body heat.
I want to see real quick. I wonder if, because it's a different part of my body, I'm not going to do my left foot because I
Please
think
don't-
I have
please don't
CRPS.
spill that.
I'm not going to spill
Well,
it.
you were grabbing
She
it like.
said just as she spilled it everywhere.
She says just as it's every
Can I have the
Don't put
towel?
your foot in too deep. Or
I'm not.
it's-
I don't want to push it over, but
Yeah,
here, give me
you-
the towel.
towel.
Chug.
Do you want to do it for
Chug.
60 seconds as well?
Huh, sure.
Okay, I'll go ahead
Chug
and
the
find
foot
it.
water.
Hang on, my phone takes about 60,000 years to pull anything
Kidney
up.
stones don't actually hurt worse for guys. Our ureters are the same size and their urethra is actually bigger. That is a myth that makes me very angry.
Well, actually,
That myth makes me so angry because nurses just fawn over dudes having kidney stones. And I'm like, there's no reason that hurts worse. None.
I think men's urethras are actually bigger.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is where it hurts is your ureter. The tube from the kidney to the bladder, and ours are all the same size.
Are you ready to stick your foot in? All right, ready? And go.
We'll do toes.
Can you get any part of you in there?
My foot's actually super calloused.
Oh. Don't touch that water after her foot's been in it.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna make her
no.
chug the foot water.
No, I've been
Have the
walking
foot
around in
water.
flip flops all day. Do not. I don't know. It actually feels different with my foot. Like more like he was talking about. More
More pressure.
throbby.
You're at 30 seconds.
Brad, since you won, you get to drink the foot water. Yeah, it's a foot water.
Foot water.
I'll drink it. I ain't scared. I'll do it for $20.
Disgusting.
He'll do anything for $20.
Mostly,
You.
I'm poor. Yeah.
You're at 10 seconds.
Oh.
9, 8, 7, 6.
I could probably
5,
deal with my foot
4,
too.
3, 2, 1. You're done.
Yeah, Emilio says we should.
Jesus.
Emilio says we should take a poll and see if Brad has to drink the foot water.
No.
Everyone's against you.
Who thinks that he
Emilio
should
doesn't
drink
get to come to
it?
the investigation
The
anymore
foot did
on
the thing where it
Saturday.
hurt worse after I pulled it out.
Maybe that's a good way to test if you have CRPS in that limb.
To see if it hurts worse after you pull it out.
I don't know.
Or...
I'm seeing something.
Stop it.
I'm testing a thing.
I can't feel it at all in that hand.
Yeah, that's why you should stop. That's probably why they tell you not to. Give me the foot water.
Yeah, no, I can't. I can't feel it all in my left hand. Like if I stick my hand in the ice water, it doesn't do anything. Another interesting thing about CRPS is because it's a nerve disease. Your fingers, if you take a bath, they prune differently.
Oh, that's interesting to know.
Yeah, there's a photo out there of a guy with nerve damage in one finger, and all his other fingers are pruned except that one. Chug that foot water, fearless leader.
No, disgusting. I will puke if you drink it.
All right, so what are y'all's final closing thoughts?
CRPS sucks, and I don't want it.
Are there any so did you I know y'all kind of talked about the people doing research, but like if you wanted to donate to CRPS or whatever, is there a good one
Yeah,
to do that for that puts the money towards like research and actually finding cures and treatments and stuff?
I looked it up.
Because like I always feel bad because people want to donate for like cancer and things like that, but you know, like Susan G. Komen, like there's a bunch of different ones, and you think that's the one you should donate to, and they're not really putting the money towards what you think they're putting the money towards.
Yeah, so I'd have to do more research to figure out which one of these is a good one, and I can go on some of my CRPS groups and
See what they say.
see what they say. The one I found initially was the RSDSA.
Oh, you know, one thing we didn't touch on at all, marijuana and THC for pain. Have people had any success with that for
Lots
CRPS
of people
pain?
say they have.
I know you haven't.
Lots of people say it has helped them, but because it's legal so few places right now that they don't have any good studies. I believe they're doing a couple in other states on marijuana however, they find it less effective than it is with other pain diseases.
Is it okay to repeat what your doctor said about it when you asked about it?
Yeah, he's my PA, my physician's assistant. And I went in and I asked him about it because it's when they were legalizing in a bunch of places, and everybody's always encouraging me to try pot. It doesn't matter how many times I say I hate it. Whatever.
But we were asking about like the oil.
I
like
asked
the oil.
him about CBD.
Yeah.
He said in the case of CRPS, people find more relief with THC than the CBD ingredient, and he doesn't think taking CBD would do anything for me. He also said because it's not regulated in Texas yet very well, that there can be minute amounts of THC in the CBD,
which would cause you to
which
fail.
would red flag me on my drug test. Yeah, he said for some reason THC is the better ingredient for dealing with it, but he also said that for some reason marijuana does not have as good of results as it does with other pain diseases.
The other thing we should bring up, we tried kratom once because kratom is legal.
Yeah, it's
did
illegal.
did that help? It had absolutely no effect
Made
at
me
all.
tired.
Okay.
But it's another one of those things where a lot of people in the groups I'm in swear by it.
Well, I say if it's legal in your state,
There's no harm in trying
Yeah,
it.
there's no harm in trying, and if it works for you, it might be a better alternative than an opiate.
Now, if you're already seeing a pain doctor, that's something you need to talk with him about because you don't know what's interfering with what.
Yeah, I always want to talk about be honest with your doctor about stuff like that because ultimately they can steer you in the right direction about it and be like, no, it really actually won't help you. Or it could help you, but, it could cause you some legal
Yeah, and they
issues
can also
because of
tell
this.
you what's going to pop up on your drug test.
Yeah.
What's going to make you fail. Because when you sign up with a pain doctor, you sign a you sign a thing saying that you will not receive any pain medications from any other doctor, that you will not do any of these substances, blah, blah, blah. And they drug test you. And anything you do that nulls that contract, you're gone. They will not see you anymore. They've gone so the opposite way with opiates that you can't do anything. And my doctor sees a lot of people with CRPS, and these new rules they've made where you can only have 90 MMEs, that's milligrams of morphine equivalent a day, he said is really affecting his CRPS patients. A lot of people swear that opiates aren't an effective treatment for CRPS. But for me, for everyone I know, for every doctor I've talked to, they say that is the only blanketly effective thing. And it doesn't help some people, but it has more success than anything else.
I don't think it's that it doesn't have success at treating pain. I think the problem is that it's so highly addictive that people were wanting an alternative.
There's also a thing you can get where opiates actually start making you hurt worse, and I forget what it's called, but there's basically a disease you can get where it starts doing the opposite.
I agree with the idea that, if for pain management, you should go with the least amount of what, least harmful amount of least as possible. But, if I was living with my hand in a bucket of ice, I would probably be like, hey, I need all the Percocet
all
and the
things.
Dilaudid and
The fentanyl. And
shoot me in the face.
I think the next time someone wants to rag on me for taking meds, I want to be like, hey, ice water.
Hey, I got this bucket of ice
But
I carry around with me.
What they've done, and the thing that bothers me a lot, is they've taken people like me that are on 75 mcgs of fentanyl, which is over their 90 MMEs equivalency thing, and they've gone, okay, now you have to cut that by 2/3 now, right now.
Like, you don't have any time to kind of wean
No.
off of it or
and
anything.
that's your life from now on. And what my doctor said is people are just going to start killing themselves. And they have. They had a lady, I believe it was in Chicago, whose pain doctor got raided because he sees some of the worst CRPS cases. So he prescribes high amounts of medication. They raided him, and he couldn't see any patients. She lost her pain meds. She killed herself. She had an 11-year-old son. And her note was basically, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
And like Catherine said, pain medication tolerance makes it impossible for long-term treatment plans. That's why you have to start very low and only move it up if you have to. Like, I can go to my doctor, like when I had my arm infection, and go, okay, this is really bad. Can I go up for the next 2 months? And they'll go, okay, 2 months. Then you got to go back down. Like, that's fine. But
And they're always happy. Like, I know it's like when you say you want your fentanyl lowered or whatever. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. No, I'm not going to put my foot in there.
But eventually it just gets to the point where there is not enough meds in the world. And I mean, this disease really, it has the highest rate of suicide, like out of anything, just because it affects everything. So if you know anyone with this disease, try and have some,
some sympathy, some empathy.
Extend them, leeway.
Yeah.
Because it takes a while to get used to. And by get used to, I don't mean get immune to the pain. Because Steven does that thing where he's like, well, it hurts every day, so shouldn't you be used to it? No, that's not the way this works. But it does take some time to get used to that your life is different now. That you're like, I loved my job.
And I think
I can't do it.
And I think it might be very detrimental to think in terms of getting better or fixed or whatever.
Oh, yeah. When I was thinking...
Because a lot of people in your life I know are like, well, don't worry. One day you'll get better. No.
And that helped me a lot when I accepted that. When I went, I'm never going to get better, and I've got to be okay with that. That made me better. So when people do that thing where they're like, oh, when are you going to get better? Oh, just wait, you'll get better. I'm like, no, that makes me feel worse.
Well, I've always liked that better, not well. Because you'll have better days. It's... Well, and actually, recently you've been having better days.
I kind of wrecked myself at the hospital, but I've been on new hormones, and I've been tolerating things a lot better. I also was having a flare before, and I think that let up. Because CRPS does flare like other diseases.
Didn't you say they're also using DXM?
I was looking it up
pain?
in dextromorphin that you find in a lot of cold medicines. They're using that to treat. I'm not sure what the dosage is on that, but I might discuss that with my doctor.
If they're doing like DXM, would that also go over into like some of the hallucinogen stuff like acid, like LSD,
ketamine? I mean,
DMT and ketamine and mushrooms. Would mushrooms?
I don't know if that would be on the same level. I am completely ignorant of.
I know they're classed like the same, and they're kind of part of the same family. Like if you take enough DXM, you're gonna hallucinate.
Yeah.
And you're gonna trip.
Your cloud spirit guide might visit you.
Yeah, so I was curious if my adventures with mushrooms that's coming up would actually be like some kind of pain management, because the deal with mushrooms.
That's the thing I'm not worried about asking my doctor, because he knows I'm asking in theory.
Yeah.
Do shrooms pop up in drug tests? That depends on what kind of drug tests. A lot of pain doctors do a very wide brand drug test, so they have to test for individualized opiates. So they're testing for fentanyl, Percocet, and hydrocodone, because they all break down into different things. Now, like my pain doctor recently.
You probably shouldn't discuss what your
No, he scaled back the drug. A lot of places are doing this. They're scaling back the drug test because they're so horrendously expensive. And so they're not testing for as much, but they can test for that. Mm-hmm. And it's not something I'd be willing to risk.
I've just been and I've been more interested in it for like the anxiety depression thing, because after the hallucinogenic part wears off, the other chemicals hang around in your spinal fluid, whatever, and that's where they're finding like long-term effects for helping depression, helping anxiety, possibly helping pain, like all these different things that it kind of not fixes but treats. And it ends up being like something you do like once a month.
Yeah.
Because you only trip for like 8 hours, depending on, and if you're doing like micrograms or whatever.
Microdosing. Amelia says, so does the amount of pain you're in override the high effects of the meds? It overrides a lot of them. Like, people take opiates and they talk about like feeling.
If you take the dosage you're supposed to.
They talk about like feeling cozy or like warm or like comfortable. Like, mostly
I never felt that during an opiate.
They make me hyper though. They always have.
Here's an interesting question. Okay, so what I've noticed when I'm in, I don't have chronic pain, well, not to that degree, but like in the past, if I've had some kind of pain and they prescribe me an opiate. The opiate doesn't make the pain stop or lessen. It just makes me not give a shit that I'm in pain. Mm-hmm. That's all it does. The pain, and then I'm in more pain once the
med wears off.
Once the med wears off, because I go into this like instant like rebound.
Well, and opiates cause rebound headaches really bad. That's something I get.
I get that too.
Yeah, if I'm like, I'll take a Percocet.
It gives me a debilitating headache.
It's because I went to the hospital one time with a migraine and they gave me morphine, and
it was worse afterward.
Yeah, I was like, this is not okay. We cannot do this again. So they gave me Phenergan, Benadryl, and magnesium, and that worked like a charm. Mina says if shrooms are like ketamine, don't do it, Brad. They're not. One is a much less severe drug, and it's a lot shorter acting.
Yeah, it's only an 8-hour trip, and it's like 8 micrograms anyway.
Yeah, no K-holes. I don't know. I've never done ketamine, and I've always, like, people have asked if I wanted to try that to treat my CRPS, but it scares me. No one I know has a good story about it. It's always like demons were trying to eat me, and I had to watch everyone I loved die.
But it should be noted, like if you're doing it like with the doctor, they actually put you into a coma with ketamine. I don't think you trip.
People have said they had, like, because you kind of go in and out.
That.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. Plus the cost of being in the hospital for 5 days.
Yeah.
Catherine says, I felt loopy as hell on pain meds after my gallbladder surgery because I took 2 thinking all the old people need 2 pain pills. Not good. I took 1.5 from then on.
Or half. Oh, man. I remember we were doing that with my hydrocodone one time. I was like, man, I really don't like hydrocodone. It was after I had my wisdom teeth pulled out, and I was like, man, I really don't want to take a full one because it makes me so sick. And so I was breaking them in half, and I would take it, and then I would just be bam, like instant. I didn't realize they had given me the time release.
Oh, and you were breaking the time release.
Breaking the time release, and then I would just be in pain for like 3 hours, and like, oh my god, and then take the other half and just bam, and I was just like nuts. And then,
if you break the time release, it messes everything up.
Jeez. I just wanted to comment on what Mina said earlier. She said, I'm loving this podcast. You have opened my eyes to this disease. So I like the fact that our podcast is getting to the point where we can share things that people didn't know about and open their eyes up. And
the last 7 years of my life have been spent trying to explain this disease to people, namely doctors.
people who are supposed to be experts on everything.
And it's such a rare disease.
Well, you know what? To get a license to get a taser, you have to get tased. So to get a license is a pain doctor. Somebody should be able to like thump you in the dick.
You don't have to get tased. Now, cops to use a taser have to get tased.
Whatever. You knew what I meant.
And pepper sprayed. Have you ever watched the videos of them getting? I love it.
They're always funny.
I've been pepper sprayed. It's unpleasant.
It sounds like to make this podcast more successful, we have to have some kind of challenge for every episode, like
just
like
that
next
machine
episode.
every time, just to eat.
But
eat.
I think you guys should pepper spray me on the next episode.
Okay.
If you want to be pepper sprayed or tased, I'm all for it, buddy. But
it's just hard to, like, if you don't have a captive audience to make people understand, like, everything.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
which is kind of the point of what the podcast originally was for, is that we wanted people to not only feel like people who are also have chronic illness, they have kind of camaraderie and they know they're not alone, but then it's also we want to open people's eyes to things that they may not have known about before. And so, what are you?
Mina says tased in the dick.
Tased in the dick.
Oh, Amina says she's got to go, but thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, Mina. Bye.
All right, so if anybody wants to try the CRPS challenge that we issued,
Yeah, I'd love some more descriptions.
send us a video, and after we get a bunch of videos, maybe I'll pick one and send them a Strictly Sickly t-shirt.
Yeah, and I want to hear descriptions, because, like I said, I have such a hard time explaining to people what things feel like that I'd like to be able to go.
I want to see I want to see videos of other people in pain.
Yeah. So send us those videos and include a little description of what it felt like, and then that would be awesome.
But thanks for listening to me ramble about this disease. I think it's important that people know what this is. So
So we'll see you either next week or the next about some new thing.
yeah, it'll be next week.
And we have an NT Paranormal podcast
Tomorrow.
and it's going to be a very, very good episode.
Yes, and we have big stuff going on. It's going to be an awesome episode. Tune in.
Bye, guys.